Hello everyone, welcome to the Other Side 2020 presidential debates coverage. As you all know, we are a podcast in which we do a lot of debates because we are former competitive national, international champion debaters. So we've decided that we want to do some coverage on the presidential debates, and who better to analyze these debates other than those stupid talking heads on CNN and Fox than some people who've actually been in high-level debates.
You really don't like the talking heads, do you?
I actually saw their takes last night. They weren't that bad. They were all right, but I think we have some interesting stuff to say. Who do you think won the debate? We'll start with that.
If I'm being 100% honest, I think that picking a clear winner in the debate's a little difficult, but I do think that if I had to deduce it to one thing, I think that I probably have to say Trump won the debate.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because, like, in debates, there are often differing goals and objectives. Like, nobody comes into a debate on neutral ground. There are certain topics that are more lopsided. There are certain kind of geopolitical scenarios that make one side stronger than another, but in presidential debates they shift the objectives, and I think that Trump's objective was to muddle the field, was to produce an attitudinal kind of vision of Biden as weak, and I think that all of those things ended up happening. I think that Biden didn't really focus the debate where he wanted to, which was the question of policy itself.
Yeah.
So because I think that Trump achieved to some degree his goal, and I don't think that Biden achieved what needed to be his goal, at least, I gotta give it to Trump in the worst fashion I've ever seen. It was not a clean win, it was not pretty, but I think Trump probably gets through the first debate with a slight win. I also don't think there's an incentive for more debates. I don't know, I'm not
Based on how crappy that debate was?
Yeah, it's just, if you want to know who the clear loser of that debate was, the answer is Chris Wallace, and we'll talk about Chris Wallace later. But you gotta admit, Chris Wallace tried. You gotta admit, Chris Wallace tried. Like, stop ragging on the guy.
People were saying Joe Rogan would do a bet. I don't know if anybody could have stopped Trump from babbling as much as he did and interrupting. I think Trump also won the debate. However, to me it's weird because I think Trump won in terms of rhetoric and the animation of theater that comes with debate. When we did debate in high school, one of the biggest things was the argument matters, but the way you get the person in the back of the room, in this case the judge or the American people, to perceive the way you are communicating through rhetoric, through linguistics, through animation, through humor, through whatever emotion you can elicit within those people, it kind of matters more sometimes than the arguments. Because the American people are not like political analysts, right? They don't know every detail of the Green New Deal.
They also don't care about it.
And they also don't care. But they do know lines like, I've done more in 47 months than you've done in 47 years. Like, when I heard that, I was like, goodness. And if I'm the average American, I'm like, you know what? To be honest, Biden has been in there for 47 years, and what has he done, right? Like I don't know. It's 47 years, and there's not a signature bill attached to your name other than a bill that locked up a lot of black people.
Talk about that too.
And it's, so I think Trump won the debate. However, I do think if Trump just didn't interrupt as much as he did, and I thought the interruptions were valid at some moments because he really would hammer it, like, did your son get $3 million? Did he get Those interruptions are valid because Biden obviously doesn't want to answer, and it's like you keep pushing him. But when it's just not letting him speak for his allotted 2 minutes, then I think the American people were just like, all right, is this a child? Like, we need to have some type of civil discourse here. But I do think he won because I think Biden did not hammer him on the things he needs to hammer him, which is policy.
Yeah. I will say this. So, do we want to like jump into the kind of?
You're good.
Oh, sorry. Do we just want to jump into the general kind of attitudinal things that happened, because there was a lot going on. So I think that the perfect way to start this is by talking about the form of the debate, not necessarily the format, but the way that they came in. So Biden comes in relatively strong, actually, more animated than he's been maybe ever. Telling Trump, can you shut up for a minute?
I mean, he was getting through full sentences too,
right?
Which I actually was scared he wouldn't be able to do.
It was very odd, but I was like, as an intro, he's doing pretty okay.
Right.
It continued to slip further on because I think that Trump's interruptions rattled him.
Yes.
As the debate progressed. But at the very least, the introduction was animated. Similarly, I didn't think Trump came in as animated as I thought that he would.
Yes.
So it almost seemed as though the roles were reversed, and I was like, we're seeing differing sides. And by the end of the debate, I was like, oh, that's the Joe I remember, and that's the Trump I remember.
Right. I'd agree with that. I think that one of the biggest things I saw when Biden came into this is he kind of had these pre-rehearsed lines that he was ready to drop. Like, Trump says he's the art of the deal, but China has been the art of the steal. And, like, I got it. I got the rhetoric he was trying to go for. I don't think that was a good argument because I think Trump's been doing a lot more to help with China. But overall, I think both of them wanted to come in and land punches, right? Trump wanted to say a bunch of things to accuse him of certain things, and Biden wanted to blame the entire COVID situation on them. Ultimately, I think we both ended up thinking Trump won just because his interruptions were more impactful for people, and Biden wasn't able to capitalize on specific moments. So
yeah, I also the last thing I think in terms of like, because we should talk about that interruption tactic as well, because obviously the place where Trump gets closest in terms of losing is the fact that the frequency of the interruptions was ridiculous. But the tactic itself, right? It's meant to do two things. First, it's meant to project strength.
Yes.
That Trump refuses to be walked over or lied on, you know, if you perceive those things to be lies.
Yes.
And two is that it's meant to confuse and disorient Joe Biden, who's had a lot of trouble in the past remaining like focused in confrontation. Like remember when Joe Biden almost got into a fight with some random dude and like challenged him to like a push-up contest or something like that.
Yep.
It's like in direct confrontation, Joe Biden has been shown in the past to be unable to handle, and I think Trump tested the waters in terms of that. The problem is once Trump smelled blood, he didn't know how to back off once he had accomplished a task, which is why the frequency became so annoying.
Right.
But as a tactic, you gotta admit, the interruption thing was genius.
Yeah.
From the jump. And it was, you could tell it was planned. It was not pure impetulance. It was definitely at some point like Trump was like, I think I can just interrupt him and he can't say anything.
Yeah, I think the thing about Trump is like, and again, this goes back, and I think this is where we'll end it, and then we'll get into our specific analysis and some videos in the description for the specific topics that we were talked about. But he has desensitized a $1 trillion media empire and I think all of the American people to the point where he can do anything, and I just don't think we care anymore. And like we say we care, we'll tweet about it, but we don't care enough. Like we just don't care enough. So when he's interrupting and he's fighting with Chris Wallace, I think one, that's exciting the base. The base is getting super, super excited that he's not backing down and like he's being this like presidential leader who's like asserting himself. And the rest of us are like, well, that's what Trump does. He's not this respectful political figure that lets the time fly by and engages in civil discourse. He didn't get elected by engaging in civil discourse. That's not who he is. So I think the crux of the debate is that, or the crux of this argument is that Trump won the debate by being himself and Biden did not. Oh, it's kind of the same thing with Bernie, right? Like Bernie was playing too nice against Biden the whole presidential campaign, right? He never really got mad at him because Bernie wanted to always be on the upper echelon of moral superiority or whatever. I think the closest Biden got to playing on Trump's level was saying, shut up, man, which is just not enough, right?
Good question.
You got to do more.
Is that moral so the idea of the Democratic Party as the party that upholds democratic values is something that they've been running on since 2008,
yes.
Right?
I think Obama really ushered that in with his demeanor, his ability to
Is that strategy outdated?
I think in the context of Trump, it's absolutely outdated.
Like, is it worth fighting fire with fire at this point in the context of someone like Trump?
Yeah.
And does a leader like Joe Biden have the capacity?
But that's the argument. I don't think Biden or Joe had the capacity to do that. I think if Kamala maybe was the actual president, she would like really slap back. But we need someone who is a populist who just doesn't care. Like the thing about these presidential candidates is they actually care what people think of what they say. The thing about Trump is he just doesn't care. He'll say anything, and he's like, "What's the worst that could happen?" And that's how he's become the president because he says ridiculous stuff. The worst that could happen is some Twitter storm, and then you move on. And I think the Democratic Party has not associated themselves with that level of sensationalization in their words, which means they always try to fight with these types of moral, like, you're the worst president ever, without actually saying why you're the worst president ever.
You heard it here first. What we need is a left-wing populist.
We do. That's not as nice as Bernie. Like, that's someone who actually is ready to fight fire with fire. So yeah, I think we both agree Trump definitely won this debate. Biden could have won the debate because there were a lot of moments that he could have capitalized on.
Oh yeah, Trump. I'm just gonna be 100% honest. From what I've seen, Trump sucked. I think part of the reason why is Trump didn't have a kind of landmark stand-up thing to attach to Biden that was particular. Like, yes, you have a 47-year career, but when someone's had a 47-year career, they've been through everything and have already kind of figured out. Like, like, yes, the crime bill thing happened, but like Biden's been fighting the crime bill since the early 2000s. So
Right.
he's pretty much played 20 years of defense against.
And
the
he has a
crime
pretty
bill.
good argument that a lot of the Black Congressional Caucus supported that bill.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, like the fundamental difference between the way that Trump operated in 2016 and the way that he has to operate against Biden is that there's no landmark thing to attach to Biden the way that he did to Hillary, like with Benghazi.
Right.
Right. It's like
Or the emails.
at least that Trump hasn't, or that Biden hasn't already played a ton of defense against. So he had to do things that were about Biden's personality, which ironically was something that he couldn't do in 2016 because it would have made him seem too sexist, because he would have been like, oh, your personality is weak, as a woman, you're
Right.
because he couldn't do that. So the roles have been reversed, and I think that he's having a little bit of trouble playing that. The closest he got to doing something like that was being like, Hunter Biden did this, which like being like your son did something problematic is probably not. It's nowhere near the level of like outrageous that will win you or swing you the election as you did something problematic, which is what happened in 2016.
That is a really, really good point.